host, and I'm going to give it just a couple minutes again, like we always do, to let some people join in. And if you can, in the meantime, if you can hear me, go ahead and put a 1 in the comments. And if you can see me, put a number 2 in the comments. And if you can hear and see me, put a number 3. We'll get started here shortly. I'm going to go ahead and also share this to a couple of places. And you can already see the question, the main question we're going to be covering today. One of our viewers emailed in and asked, is applying for a credit card with credit that needs work a smart move? If so, what's the best credit card option to go with? So that's one of the main topics I'll be going over on today. Again, if you can hear me, press 1. And if you can see me, press 2. If you can hear and see me, press the number 3. Also, go ahead and put in the comments where you're tuning in from, what city you're tuning in from. And let me go ahead and share this really quick. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so go ahead and get started here. Just give it just a couple more seconds, see if anyone jumps on. Again, this is our weekly webinar every Wednesday. We come on here for the Credit Decoded webinar where we discuss all things credit related, how to improve your credit, fix your credit. We talk about some of the myths, the misconceptions, show you how you can build your credit properly, how to leverage your credit properly, and really how your credit score works. Again, my name is Edward Araujo. I'm the president of Texas Consumer Credit Services. I'm also the author of a book here called Credit Decoded that can be found on Amazon. It's available on Kindle also. So one last time right before I get started, if you can hear me, put a 1. And if you can see me, put a number 2. If you can hear me and see me, put a number 3. I'll also be answering questions at the end of the live here. So if you do have any questions similar to what the question the viewer submitted here, or really any credit related questions, what you can do, things you've heard, go ahead and place them in the chat and I'll try to get to those as we can. And also go ahead and type in the comments there where you're tuning in from. So let me just make sure I am good to go here, and I'll go ahead and get started here. Okay. All right. So it looks like we are good to go here. Okay. So again, the way I like to start these off is with questions from our viewers. And as you can see on the screen, today's question was, is applying for a credit card with credit that needs work a smart move? If so, what's the best credit card option to go with? So I'm assuming this viewer, excuse me, may have some credit issues, and they're wondering if getting some credit is a smart move. And that's a great question, and I want to kind of break it down and explain it in different ways. But the overall answer is yes. Okay. Adding credit is specifically even credit cards, which are revolving credit, are a great way to improve and establish and build your credit, as long as you know how to manage your credit correctly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put on the screen here a chart, which what we call the FICO 5. Okay, so if you can see here, there is the second part, a 30%. Let me go ahead and take myself off screen so you can see it a little bit better there. Okay, the second percent part right there, the 30%, that says amount owed / utilization. Okay, 30, that's 30% of your score. That's the second biggest factor in your score, right behind payment history, right behind paying your bills on time and having derogatory items. So A big part of that 30%, most of that 30% is what's called utilization, which is how much of your available revolving credit card you're using, credit limits you're using, the limits on your credit cards. Okay. So, for example, kind of the magic number, or the goal would be a minimum of 3 credit cards. Okay. So a minimum of 3 credit cards is what would be ideal to build a healthy credit profile. Okay. More than 3 does not necessarily help more. It's not going to necessarily hurt either, but you just want to make sure that you are managing them correctly. Okay. So 3 credit cards is what most people that have great credit, and what the credit scoring algorithm is looking at, is a minimum of 3 credit cards. Okay. Now, a lot of times I'll get asked, um, well, I can only get a $200 card, or someone else has a $10,000 card. And really, the limit is not what impacts your score per se. It's how much of that limit you're using. So that's where we get into talking about that utilization ratio, right? So if you have a $500 credit card and a $250 balance, you're using 50% of your available credit, or that's your utilization ratio is 50%. Okay. So normally, if you're using over 30%, you're hurting or lowering your score. Okay. So, for example, on that same $500 credit card, if you had a balance of $150 or more, you would be hurting or lowering your credit score. Okay. So, ideally, you want to maintain 10% and below utilization ratio. Okay. So, on that same $500 credit card, you want to get in your head that your limit is only $50, which is 10% of that 500. Okay. What I'm also going to go ahead and put in the comments, so you all can look at while I go through this, is the second part of the question was, what's the best credit card options you recommend I go with? So in the comment here, I'm going to go ahead and put in my 3 top recommendations. Okay. And the reason they're my top 3 recommendations are for a couple of different reasons. And let me just give me a second while I check over here to make sure that they are posting correctly also. Give me a second. Okay. Yes, they are. So the first one that I have there is called the New Coast Direct card. So that card is going to be similar to, I don't know if anyone is familiar with things like Fingerhut. So it's basically an online store, an online retailer, where you can buy different items from electronics to household goods. And they specialize in really helping people establish their credit. Now, the awesome thing, and the reason why it's the #1 card that we recommend, is because 99% of the time you're going to get approved as long as you're not in bankruptcy. And about 99% of the time, you're going to get a $5,000 credit limit. Okay. So there are a few caveats, and there are a few things you should know. Um, there is an application fee, I should say, of anywhere from about $95 to $99. So that is something that you're going to have to come, out of pocket with to apply. It's like the application fee to get the card. Okay. But $95 to $99 to get $5,000 credit limit is awesome. That's great. Okay. After that, you're basically going to have to buy something. Okay. And on your first purchase, I believe the minimum is $100. So you would have to buy it. They ship it to you. Okay. And then you're going to pay it down, like you have a balance of $100. So as soon as that card hits your report, it's going to start impacting your score. Normally, if you do it before like the 23rd of the month, which is probably a great time for this webinar because today is the 22nd, it should report by the first or second week of next month. Okay. And it's going to look really, really great when you have a $5,000 limit credit card with only a $100 balance. Okay. So that's the first thing. Okay. That's going to look great. Another way that it can help you is, let's say you have a smaller credit card, like a $200 credit card, and you have it maxed out. Okay. Or a $2,000 credit card and you have it maxed out. And you're thinking, well, to get that utilization ratio down, to get that down to 10%, I would have to pay about $1,800, right, to leave that $200 balance on there. Or you could pay the $95, $99, add the new Coast Direct card, automatically adding $10,000 of available credit. So what happens with their utilization also is they measure it by individual card and then overall. So now instead of just having that $2,000 and being maxed out at $2,000 using 100% of your credit, now you've got $12,000 because you have your original $2,000 card. I'm sorry, $7,000, excuse me, because you would have your original $2,000 and you added $5,000, so you have $7,000 now. But now, let's say you didn't pay anything on that other card, you still got the $2,000 balance, and you've got a $100 balance on your new card. Now you've got $7,000 available credit, $2,100 balance. You're using a lot less of that, your total available credit, and your score will go up. Okay. So it's not only if you don't have any credit cards, it's if you may have a card or two and you have high balances and you have to pay a lot of money to get them down, you can always add credit. Okay. Now, the reason I said $10,000 earlier, I got a little ahead of myself, is because the second card on there, the My Jewelers Club card, works almost exactly the same. Okay. It's just a different store or a different retailer online. They're an online jewelry store. Okay. But it's the same thing. Again, it's like a $95 to $95 application fee. You go and, you order $100 worth of items. They ship them to you. And you're going to get your statement with the $100 balance, and then you're going to pay the minimum every month of $20 or $25, whatever it may be. Okay. But now if you add two of those cards, you're going to add $10,000 worth of available credit. Okay. So let's just pretend you had a credit card of like $5,000 and it's maxed out, and you're like, man, I got to pay quite a bit of money to get that down. Or you could add both of those cards and for under $200 at $10,000 worth of available credit. Okay. And again, they are basically going to approve you 99% of the time, as long as you're not currently in bankruptcy. Okay. So those are the top two cards that I recommend to a lot of our clients, or when people ask me about that, we recommend that. Also, you don't just want to be out applying for cards that you're not going to get. If you have credit issues, you're not going to get the American Express Platinum. You're not going to get the Chase Sapphire. You're not going to get these big cards. And what's going to happen is you're going to start racking up inquiries and you're going to start damaging your score. So will you get an inquiry when you apply? Yes, but you want to make sure it's worth it, right? That you're basically almost guaranteed to get the card. So two inquiries might not do much, but you're going to benefit a lot more by adding that. Okay, so let's say you had no credit, you added those. Guess what? Now you've got two trade lines on there, and these are not authorized user trade lines. You're not getting added to someone's card. You're not piggybacking. I have a whole series on why that can get you in trouble. If you do it the right way, it's great, but there's scams out there that you want to look out for. That'd be a topic for another day. Okay, so now you have two. Remember, I said three is ideally what you want to have. Okay, so the third one here is a credit builder card. It's the Credit Builder MasterCard. Now, the first two that we're talking about were credit lines or credit cards to a specific store. Just like if you were to get a Target credit card, you can only use it at Target. This third one, it's my number 3 choice for a couple different reasons. This one is a MasterCard. Okay, so this one is one that you can use anywhere. Like a Visa or MasterCard. You can use it at any store for gas, for whatever it may be. Okay, it is a MasterCard. Now, this is what's called a secured credit card. So basically what that means is you have to put a deposit for the card equivalent to what you want your limit to be. And I believe that their minimum is $200, which is great. Some secured credit cards have higher minimums. Okay, so a $200, you put $200 in there. You get your card and your limit is $200. Now, one of the great things about this card is that it reports multiple times per month. I believe it's 6. Okay, so what does that mean is that it can report to your credit report sometimes within a week. Okay, so helping you build that, that credit up as quickly as possible. Now, Remember, we're talking about all of your credit cards. You should write down what 10% is and get in your head that that's your limit. So if you put $200 on this card, you want to write down that your limit's only $20 on that card. Okay. So you never want to use more than $20. So what can you do? One of the recommendations that I give to my clients is put something like a small subscription on there. You can put on there, for example, Netflix, Hulu, music streaming subscription services, something that's $14, $12. That way, you always have activity on the card. You can even go as far as setting up, your bank to auto pay it or on bill pay or paying it with, your debit card. That way, it's kind of on autopilot, $12 every month, and you're paying it $12. And if you get those three cards, you don't use more than 10%, and you manage them properly, you'll be well on your way to building great credit. Okay. So yes, even if you have negative accounts, you can start building credit. Now, you will eventually need to address those negative accounts, and something that we help people with, that I can help you with. In the post, you can always reach out to my team to get a free consultation. But you are going to, if you don't have any credit, eventually have to build or establish some credit, right? Because you can add all the credit you want and not fix the negative items, or you can fix the negative items and never add credit, and it's kind of would be like going to the gym and not eating right? But you can start with one. And if that's all you can do right now, at least start with one. Okay. Next month, try to add another one, and the third month, add the third one. Okay. Um, Looking at my notes here, see if we have any questions. So a lot of times people don't want to get credit cards, okay, because they say I pay everything cash. That's great. That's great. That's good for budgeting and your finances. But they want to see that you can have these cards and be responsible with them. Okay, so it's actually very important to have at least these three credit cards. And you don't have to go into debt. That's a misconception. You don't want to go into debt with these cards, then you'll never pay them off. You'll be paying all this interest. That's why just get those small cards like that, right? Or you can get a high limit card, but just use very, very minimal. On those $5,000 cards, you go buy something for $20, $25, pay it off, and that's it. Okay. Another quick tip if you do have credit cards is try to pay it before your due date. Okay. Paying it before your due date is just going to ensure that you get credit for that payment, that when they report your balances to the bureaus, it's going to be reflecting that payment already, and report that lower balance. Okay. Okay, so I went over that. I think that's pretty much, I had all on my notes. 3 cards is ideal. That's kind of the magic number we tell our people. Use less than 10%. Don't pretend there's not even $200 on there. Pretend there's only $20 on there. Okay. It's the second biggest part of your score. Okay, so it's super, super important. If you have a MasterCard like that, put a small reoccurring charge on there. And if you do set up on auto pay, that's great, but always check on them. I've seen it with people where you change your address and the payment doesn't go through, and then you can potentially have a late payment on there, which would be no good either. Okay. So I hope this information was helpful. I hope it answered the viewer's question there. And again, share this with your family, with your friends. Share it on social media. You never know who it could help in these times that we're going through. Also, it's very important to get educated on your credit and your finances, so you know how to tackle some of these issues and how to get through these things. Credit is definitely a tool that you can use to your advantage. Okay, if you know how to manage it and use it correctly. Having great credit helps you. It's financial freedom, right? The date of this that we're recording this or going live is the 22nd of April, and we're kind of going through this COVID-19 crisis. And people that have good credit sometimes have an advantage to where they can get a loan without having to be a payday loan, a title loan, and get through, or have credit cards even though they know if their balance will go up, their score will go down a little bit. That's fine. You can use it for times like this, and knowing that when you get back on your feet, when things go back to normal, which they will, you'll be able to pay that down, and your score will go right back up. So having great credit is a great tool when you know how to use it correctly and manage it correctly. And definitely, like our viewer asked, applying for credit is great. And these are my top three recommendations, because you can be denied at a lot of other places. Even for secured credit cards, sometimes you can be denied. Okay, so I hope this helped. I'm going to stay on just for a little while here. I'm going to be checking the comments here, see if anyone has any questions. If you do have any questions, go ahead and place them in the comments here. I'd love to answer them live here. If you are watching this on a replay, feel free to still put them in the comments. We'd like to go back, me and my team, monitor the comments and try to answer as many of those questions as you can. If you want to actually email in a question for me to go and explain live on one of our webinar Wednesdays, you can send that to info@texasconsumercredit.com. Again, I do own, and I'm the president of a credit repair organization. We help consumers improve and repair their credit. So we do offer a free consultation. If you're interested in that, there's a link in this post where you can set up a 100% free consultation where a board certified credit consultant will review your credit report with you line by line, give you some advice, and give you, an action plan of what you can do. If it's something severe that you'd like to hire us for, we can go over those options with you. But again, I hope this helped. I'm going to hang out here just for a little bit, see if we get any questions. Let me see here. I don't have someone helping me monitor this, so just give me a second while I check if we have any questions on here. All right. So it doesn't look like we have any questions at this time. Do you have oh, we do actually. Do you have a caption closed for deaf? You know what? I don't think we do. That's something I'm gonna have to look into. Thank you, Dario. I'll look into that, see what we can do for that. The links to my top three recommendations are in the first comment. I'll put them on the screen here real quick. The New Coast Direct card. This is one of the $5,000 cards, similar to a Finger Hut card. You'll see the link on the screen there. It's also, like I mentioned, in the comments. The second one that I spoke about is the My Jewelers Club card. There is the link there. That one is, again, a $5,000 card, that 99% chance of approval there, regardless of your credit issues, past credit, bad credit, whatever it may be. The only restriction, I believe, is bankruptcy. And excuse me. This third one here, this is the Credit Builder MasterCard. This is my third recommendation. This is the MasterCard that you can use anywhere, that reports multiple times a month, and I believe the minimum is $200. So again, thanks for tuning in. I hope this helps. Share this, please. We're trying to get this information out to as many people as we can. You never know who it can help. Credit impacts so many aspects of your life that people don't realize, from your insurance rates. You can't even rent an apartment with them checking your credit, purchasing a home, employment. A lot of people do not realize part of a background check is a credit check. So you never know who this video, who this information could help. So please share it with your friends and family. Tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time as we discuss all types of credit topics. Questions, send your questions in, and I'm going to try to be also looking out. We're going to be debunking a lot of the myths that are out there, misinformation that's out there. I'm also going to try to keep you all up to date as much as I can on changes in the credit industry. There's things going on right now with the current pandemic and the CARES Act, and there's want to make sure you guys get the correct information from a trusted source as far as how it can impact your credit, what creditors are doing to help, what you have to do, so you make sure that you take care of your credit while we get through this pandemic, this crisis. Thanks again. My name is Edward Araujo. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I don't have any other questions here. If you're watching the replay again, feel free to leave your questions still, and I'll try to get to them. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday.